Hey everybody, it's Sheryl from Tutoring with Sheryl and the tech coach for tutors at Tech Tutor Innovate on Facebook and on YouTube. And I am just here talking a little bit about the results of the Google Classroom Bootcamp. I was so excited. I had, you know what? I can't remember how many people I had sign up, but I think it was 7 people sign up, which is really good for me because I am a solopreneur. And so for me to get that many people to sign up and show interest in something is kind of amazing. And then I had 2 people show up to the formal live training, but I shared that training with everybody else. And I had a couple people purchase my actual self-paced course. So whenever I get results like that, I want to share my results and I want to share with you because you might be wondering, well, how can you do that? I'm going to take you through the steps that I took to talk about the Google Classroom Bootcamp. And then I'll tell you a little bit about what I shared. Okay, well, first of all, as a solopreneur, you have to figure out ways to share your message. And I have to be really honest that my go-to place is Facebook. But I will also put things out on Instagram. If I guessed correctly, and I didn't ask people where they found this information, it was probably on Facebook. I will do stories. I will do short reels, but static posts work just as well. And this time I created an event and in the ticket on Facebook, I put the calendar response, like you can sign up here. And it was literally in a calendar event and people were clicking from that. I'm sure that that's where most of them came from because that was the first place I put it. And so what I did, and let me talk to you a little bit about how to make a calendar event. If you hear me clicking, I literally have my computer open. I'm in my office area today. I'm not doing a video because my official face is not on for today. My husband and I are going to go to an event tonight and I'll get dolled up later. So if you ever want to find your Google Calendar, just go to calendar.google.com. Okay. And if you want to create an event inside of your calendar, just go to the plus button and click the event tab. Once you have that up, you want to name your event, and then you want to, you can always change the date and time in there. So you could literally just hop in that day. You don't have to find that date on your calendar unless you're looking to see if you have some sort of an overlapping event. So once you have your date and time, if it's an online conference, go ahead and push add Google Meet information. That way that's already been populated and it will be ready to go and your link will be there. If for some reason you're choosing to have a Meet link that you're using over and over again and you're using Zoom instead, then you can just add that description in. There's an actual place for it where it says add description or attachments, and you can do that in there as well. If it's in something that you're hosting in person, you can just add the location with the actual address. I'm going to pop it open for more information. I don't think that I would allow my guests to modify the event unless I was doing something coaching wise with another person and just like a one-on-one thing and they wanted to modify it. But you typically will leave my little button that says invite others or see guest list. And I like to do that because I want them to know that there's going to be other people there. But if you know specifically who you're inviting, like I invited specifically the Tech Hub for Tutors, I just went in and pushed the add guest and I found their email and I added them. Now, this was a paid event. So because it was a paid event, inside of my description, and I'm actually going to go back to that description because I was looking at a blank description. So let me pull that up. I wrote a message and it said, Sheryl is opening up her Google Classroom Bootcamp in January. She will meet with you in a small group and share how she uses Google Classroom for one-to-one tutoring, small group classes, and even runs courses through it. She will show you how she enrolls students, accepts payments, and runs her sessions using Google Meet and Google Classroom. You know, the one thing I forgot to mention was how I accepted payments. I think I did say it that I used Tutorbird, but I probably should have demonstrated that. I might make a little tutorial and share that out with everybody because I told them I was going to share that. You will prepay $30 US dollars to enter the meeting and then be sent a payment link for an additional $40 US dollars to have access to the recordings in a self-paced course. What I ended up doing, however, and I might go in here and modify this so that I can use this again, I ended up giving everybody access to the video for 10 days, but they would still have to pay me $45 to be in the self-paced course. So the total cost of the entire training is $75, which in my opinion is very low cost when you're looking at getting training for something. Most trainings I see are, usually 120 and higher. So my price point was lower. Okay. So I said we will begin promptly at 8 p.m. Central Time. Be sure to note the date and time. The course starts with direct instruction. It will be recorded if you cannot attend the live introduction. And then it moves to a self-paced course where Sheryl takes you step by step through all of the amazing things Google Classroom can do for you. You can simplify your teaching and make teaching virtually the dream that you want it to be. And then I added the prepayment link for the self-paced classroom course. And as soon as I saw people clicking on that and making their payment, I immediately sent them the link for the classroom. Then I went in to make sure that they were in there, and they were. Then I also included my link for my membership into the monthly Tech Hub for Tutors if you wanted to join that per month. That was in there. And then I had the yearly membership in the Tech Hub for Tutors. And then I went to the non-payment things. So I have my Spotify, both of my YouTube pages, my profile on Kit, both of my Instagram pages, and then my direct Gmail. So all that information was found on the calendar link. So after you save that, okay, you're going to be prompted to, would you like to send an update email to existing Google Calendar guests, yes or no? Right now, I'm not going to send one, but the day of the event, I went in and I said, hey, really looking forward to, seeing you. This is something about what I put. Honestly, I don't really know what I said word for word, but I will see you at 8 p.m. I think I did it about an hour. I'll see you in about an hour. Looking forward to seeing there. If you can't be there, I totally understand. I'll just send you a copy of the video. And guess what? When you schedule this inside of Google Calendar and then you use Google Meet, you go through the link to start the meeting, it automatically saves the video. The only thing you have to do is once it's done processing, and I usually just do it in the morning because it does take a while for it to process and then people will be frustrated and disappointed. I go back into the meeting in my Drive and I can see, hey, here I get an email. This has been updated. It's ready to go. I just click on it and I go to the little share button. And when you click the share button, you can change it to anybody with the link. And then I just share it. So what I'm going to do then after that is I'm going to have to change the permissions after 10 days. So after 10 days, and I even have that on my calendar on the, what was it, the 19th? I have at 8 a.m. remove access to the video on Google Classroom because that was what I told them I was going to do. So I'm going to follow through and actually do that. So they have 10 days to go in and watch the video repeatedly, whatever they need to do. But those people who paid to go on with the self-paced course, they are now into the Google Classroom that houses all of my information. And so inside of the Google Classroom, that is the online course, I have specific strategies that I take them through step by step on how you actually build out your Google Classrooms. And then I added an additional bonus feature where I said, here's what I'm doing now. And that was about the payments and collecting payments and scheduling and all of that. So I included that in the self-paced course. So I guess I didn't really mislead, but I think I probably should have been. I don't think I communicated effectively. So I will probably still make a video just quickly updating that, or even take a portion of the video that I had created for that and share that out. Okay, so in the Google Classroom Bootcamp, which I've recorded, and by the way, if you still would like to see the bootcamp information, you can. All you need to do is follow the link in the description. You pay $30. You get access to that for 10 days. So I would leave you in there for 10 days. And then, you can watch the video, check it out, and learn from me because it was really, really good. So what were some of the highlights of it? Well, first of all, I talked about my history of moving from classroom teacher to online. Then I went in and what I was very impressed with myself. I shouldn't say that, but I really was. I made some really good graphics. So I went into a Google Meet and I made this graphic where I was explaining, or at least I explained it as I discussed it. But on the graphic, I used little arrows to highlight what each one of the little icons were in the Google Meet. And then because I have a paid version of the Workspace account, I showed what the paid features are inside of a Google Meet, because you can use it for free, but you can't record and you can't do those types of things unless you have a paid account. And I love using it because you can record and you can make pretty good videos. If I had a better camera, to be honest, it would really help. Okay, so we're going to keep going. I then went on to show the members how you can schedule inside of Google Meet itself. And I talked about how going to the Meet link and showing the difference between starting an instant meeting or creating a meeting for later. And then I showed them how to schedule in Google Calendar. And I also showed them that, here you can see that I had the Google Classroom set up for tonight. So boom, it was showing up in there. I did mention that I had used Google Meet earlier to do my tutoring, but it doesn't show up there because I use a designated link that I've just saved. And so it's not going to show up in there on that calendar link because I don't have it on the calendar. Okay. And then I went in to my Google Calendar and I showed them that how all of my calendars are available. If I want to see them, I just have to click on the green arrow. And then I clicked from the Google Classroom Bootcamp to show them what it would look like in the little box that shows up. You can see all the members. There were 9 guests invited. At that point, there was 5 that said yes, 2 maybe, and 2 awaiting. I think we had 7 total yeses by the time we were done. And then how you can share that invite link with other people. And I think I shared that. Yeah, I dissected the whole thing. So I have 7 steps on this little tutorial page that says start here. Number 2, go to event. Number 3, the title, all of that with all those details and how you can share that link out. And I think that graphic was really good. It took me a little while to make that. Then I transitioned into the Tech Hub for Tutors, or Tech Coach for Tutors, and how I help tutors solve their problems with their growing businesses in the Tech Hub for Tutors. And I shared where all of my social media that would more the educational part you'd be able to find. I didn't have ironically, I didn't have my Facebook pages on there, but they are in the link inside of the calendar. And then I went into the whole history as to why I use Google Classroom. And I'm going to share it here because it is important that you know it, and it's so good. So I knew at the point where I was building out my business, I was actually losing money driving from student houses, from my house to their house. And my price point probably wasn't high enough, but I was losing money. And I wanted to transfer those in-person kids to online. And I did say, if you want to come to my house, you can drive to my house. But at that point, because my kids were mostly in like 1st and 2nd grade, and the parents didn't really want more than a half-hour lesson, it didn't make sense for them to drive. And I'm like, see, doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to drive. So I said, well, let's just try it. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to what we were doing. But the kids did great. And here's the thing. Our children are growing up in a digital world. So they're really used to clicking and following directions. Sometimes they get click happy and I have to slow them down, but they're really used to that. So and also because I was already using Google Classroom in my class, and at that time had already used Google Meet with students because of a worldwide event that I won't say because I don't want to be shut down on my podcast here. But when school shut down in 2020, I relied on Google Meet and Google Classroom, and I had also been training myself. I had gone to the trainings and had mastered it, and so I felt really confident. So the big thing was I had to figure out how to use it with kids that weren't in school when I was using it. And I was like, well, what does that look like? So I shared that with the members. And then I also really talked about how safe this is, because you're not sharing that link with anybody else. You are the one who's using it. So I really had to just figure out, how do I take everything that I know and how can I share that with students in a one-to-one small group and with multiple people, add additional teachers, create courses, and then sell them to, families or to adult learners. And so there was a big learning curve there. And, it would have been great if I would have also added the marketing component here, because you can go to all this work to set up these awesome Google Classrooms that have everything that you want at the tip of your finger. And then you don't have any way to, you don't have an audience, or you don't have a student to use it with. So, you have to find that fine balance between creating and then being able to use it. But I went through and I showed them, this is how you can use the whiteboard, and this is how you can use the Kami app, and this is a shared doc, and here's how you can use links. And I think until you see it, and that's really the big thing. Some people just can't wrap their heads around it. But I also showed them that it's not just for one-on-one, that I could use small groups, and how I had used it in small groups to do some collaboration and meet with small groups, and how you can keep kids actively engaged. And I talked about my Ed Hubs for Learning that I'd offered. I offered them last summer and then during the winter time, and I did have some people take me up on that. And then I showed them how you can create a course, and you can either just lump it all together in one thing, or you can add topics and spread it out. And I also showed them the behind the scenes of the SOAR 2 VIP membership. None of that stuff's available right now, but just how we had organized all of it and the things that we had offered as an upsell from an event that I hosted with Kelly Michelle Duramsky and Yolanda Duguay last February. And then lastly, I talked about the Tech Hub for Tutors membership and how it's housed inside of a Google Classroom and all the great things that are in there. And then I invited them to either join the self-paced course or to join the Tech Hub for Tutors. And then I pretty much ended the recording. Well, at the end of the recording, there were some questions, and it was a really good question. And it's one that I think we struggle with. And the question was, how do I get my students to use a whiteboard? And I really couldn't wrap my head around that. And so I said, well, let me open one up for you and I'll share it with you. And it was so interesting because it wasn't the how, it was the what are the steps, or what's the release process, or how do I get them to understand the tools? Because as we were practicing, that's really what it was. So I liked the question of how, but it was so open that until we actually practiced with it, it wasn't clear. So once we practiced with it, it became very clear that yes, you can have a whiteboard for a 6 or a 7-year-old, because this is what the audience was for this particular attendee. But you can't just say, here's the whiteboard, have at it. Because it's like walking into a candy store and saying, oh, we're just going to go look for some candy. Well, you know how the chaos is with that. You're going to set them up. Hey, we're going to go into a candy store. We're looking for M&Ms for the monster cookies that we're going to make. There's going to be a lot of other things in the store. We might want to go look at them and touch them and smell them, and maybe we even want to taste them. But today we're not going to do that. Today we're just going to go in for M&Ms. So I set my child up for the expectation of what we're doing, what we're looking for, that we're just going to go in for this one thing and then we're going to leave. You kind of do that with a whiteboard as well. The child needs to know why you're using the whiteboard. There's got to be a reason for it. You don't just pop up a whiteboard and say, well, here it is, let's go at it. There has to be a purpose. So I try to have my whiteboards ready to go before we start. There are some times when I don't, like if they had a question about math and I wanted to demonstrate it, I'll just hop into their whiteboard. But I use 2 whiteboards, and I use the Figma for Education whiteboard, which is called a Fig Jam. And then I also use the Kami app. And so then I went a little further into that for this person to show them kind of the difference between the Figma whiteboard and the Kami app. But here's the thing, there's a lot of really great whiteboards that are out there. Just because I use those two whiteboards doesn't mean that you need to. And as a matter of fact, if you're using Zoom and you're happy with your whiteboard, stick with it. But you have to teach your students how to use it. It's like any tool. Any classroom teacher will tell you, you can't just say on the first day of school, here's the bathroom pass. When you need to go, just go grab it and go. You literally have to say, there's going to be some times this year where you're going to need to use the restroom. My system in my class might be different for somebody else's. Sometimes we'll take a restroom break right before we're going to go out for recess. So we might line up outside the restroom, and then I send 3 of you in at a time. You go to the end of the line, and when everybody's through, we'll walk outside. That might be one of our systems. But if we're in the middle of something and maybe I'm doing some instruction and you really have to go, here are my procedures. And then you walk them through the procedures. But not only do you walk them through those procedures, you also practice it. And that's the same with a whiteboard. So you're going to have to set them up for success, take them through all of the steps, talk it through. You can be demonstrating it at the same time before you give them the release. You can't just say, oh, here it is, and just go figure it out. Because a 6 or a 7-year-old can't just figure it out. They're there with you to learn from you. So this is just one of the ways that you do it. You teach your systems, and that's really for anything. Like even in your tutoring processes, you don't want to just meet with them and say, hey, let's try this today. The first couple of times that you meet with a student, maybe you're just doing, they're reading the screen and you're just getting to know each other. Maybe you'll do a Canva presentation about you, where you live, what you like to do. And then you say, well, let's add some stuff about you. And then you can add their picture. You can take a picture on the screen. You can say, go get something that you really like. You can take a picture of that, put it in the presentation. You can say, well, what do you like to do? You can type it out. Then you have this little storybook about the two of you that you can share. Oh, this is what Sheryl likes to do. This is what so-and-so likes to do. Oh, we have some things in common. That could literally be your very first lesson. Because sometimes, and I've been so guilty of this myself, jumping in too quickly when our kids don't trust us yet. And we need our kids to trust us. If there's no trust, there's no learning. They really need to trust you. And so just taking some time and building that into your initial practices, I think are really important. And then taking time before every lesson and connecting with your students, I think is really important too. So I kind of veered off a little bit there, but I think it's some really good nuggets of information that's really good for anybody that's building out a tutoring business, or maybe you're stuck a little bit, you're feeling like things are stagnant. Just take some time to reconnect. Parents are completely okay with that. As a matter of fact, in January, our very first lesson with every single one of my students, we did a word salad. I call it a word salad poem, where we used the whiteboard on Fig Jam. I had it all set up. I had some words on the left side, some stickers on the right side, gave them a space to work, and I said, we're going to make a word salad poem. Here's how it's going to go. Gave them the directions. Everybody did it. We popped it into their Canva book that they're making this year from January to May. Every piece of writing that they create, we're going to pop in there as a portfolio so they can see what they've been working on. And then we played some games. And guess what? That was a great way to reconnect. It was all about them, what they wanted to do. It wasn't this like, I need to keep going because I need to get these kids to point Z by the end of the year. I don't see myself as that. I see myself as a mentor. I see myself as their academic coach. I see myself as their tutor to fill in the gaps. Clearly, I'm a reading interventionist and writing coach for them, but I'm going to help them with the other stuff. And I think that's really important, that we don't want to miss that point. We can create these beautiful Google Classrooms. We can create awesome things for them to do, but it really comes down to the student and what the student needs are. All right, well, I'm going to wrap this up because I've been talking for 23 minutes, and if you're still here with me, good job. I am going to leave the links that I shared off the calendar that I was referring to in this description so that you have everything that you need. But this was just kind of a recap of Google Classroom Bootcamp that is still available. I'm going to keep the doors open until January 15th. So you have about 6 more days to get signed up if you want to do the January version of it. I'm going to open it back up, or I'm going to booted out, reshared out in, I believe I said April. So you can come to another live event with me. Right now, the price for the live training is $30. The price for the self-paced course is $45. I may or may not leave that the same. I'm not 100% sure, but that's where it's at right now. And I want to thank everybody that came to the live training or signed up for the recordings. Thank you for trusting me with your training so that you can become a proficient online tutor and have everything that you need at the click of a button and be able to teach on the go. You guys make it a great day. And as usual, keep the learning going.